In Chapter 6 Part 1 we will be altering our U-script to reflect the death point on our scroll bar and also removing the player after a game over. So we want to stop the scroll bar after we've lost all of our lives. What we're going to do is we're just going to make a bit of room over here and alter the script that controls where the thumb or the rocket ship in our scroll bar is. What we're going to do is we're going to put another compare bool, and we're going to use this to check to see whether or not we have control. So we're using our control boolean to tell the system when we have lost all of our lives. So we'll copy and paste that up here. So the first thing we're going to do after we've manipulated the get position rotation is check to see whether or not we still have control. And if we do, we're going to go to the top, and if we don't have control anymore, it's going to be the bottom one. Now I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. Let's remove this one. I have this one going in here because if it's true, if we still have control, we still want it to display and move up the bar. What we don't want to do though is when we die, we want it to change. So we're going to set up a new vector3 variable called death point, and if we expose that, not only can we alter it in the inspector, but it also means that other parts of the script can alter it. So that's fine there. What we're going to do, we'll come down here and then we'll give the way of actually manipulating the death point. We're going to have this come after our final collision. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop in another get position and rotation, and then what this will do is this will get the position and the rotation after we have set control to false. And the position we're going to use is death point. And then what this will do is this will change both of these variables at exactly the same time. We don't need rotation, so we can get rid of that. So by changing it down here in the collision graph, let's just grab the owner because it needs to be the same. We actually want the rocket ship's position, so we'll just cross these over here because we're going to need to use owner again in a moment. And when that death point updates, it will also update it for the scroll bar. So we're going to actually adjust the game time. We're not going to do fixed or max, we just want the time scale. What we're going to do is we're going to have it slow down time when we get a game over screen. A bit more of a visual impact. So we'll pop it in there. Let's get this. And we actually want to get all children, because what we're going to do now is we're going to remove all of the children from the owner. Now the owner of this script is the rocket ship, and all of the children of the rocket ship are the particle effects that we have put the exhaust on these particular ones. So let's find the game object list, because there's more than one, so we'll just pop that in there. Make sure these are hooked up. And then what we want to do to these is, after we've crashed, obviously we don't want the particle systems to carry on firing after a game over, after we've removed the rocket ship. So we're actually going to have a destroy parameter, and we'll just hook these up. And what this will do is this will remove the exhaust and the exhaust burst. Now we can't remove the rocket ship itself because the rocket ship's actually holding all of our scripts. If we were to remove that, we wouldn't have anything that we're looking at right now. It would all just be gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a clever way of doing this. Is we're actually going to make it look like it's gone without it actually being destroyed. So we're going to get a toggle component, and the component that we're actually going to change. Now this is a clever little node, which you basically type in anything that's in the inspector, and it will try and toggle it on and off. So we're going to toggle the mesh renderer. We're going to turn it off. As you can see, we've popped that in there already. Let's save this. Let's actually do this on children found, not on straight out. Wait for compiling one more time. Okay. All looks good. Give it a try. So, 1 life, 2 life, 3rd life, and we disappear, and the rocket stops. And whilst we get time dilation. But, oh, okay, it's still going slow. So what we need to do is we need to reset game time back to 1. And we can do that. We have an on level load up here somewhere. Ah, here it is. Now we'll just put a game time in here again. Now remove what we're not going to use, and we'll have set game time to 1 on the level loading. That should correct that bug for us. Give it a try. 2 lives, 3 lives gone. Nice slow-mo effect. Rocket ship stops, hit retry, and time goes back to normal. And we still have our win. Nothing's been affected there. I do like that explosion. I think it needs some more to it though. In Chapter 6 Part 2 we'll be adding an additional particle system for our asteroid collision, which will be more in line with our game's style. Again, particle creation will be sped up. If you do want me to go through tutorials on particle creation, please leave a comment below. I have not sped up the inclusion of any scripting or any generation of assets in relation to the particle system. Okay, just moving some assets into our texture folder to use with our new particle system. I'll create some materials for these textures now. And for our clouds. And another for our shockwave. And we're going to set these to particles additive soft so that we can get our alpha channel in there. Looks good. Right. Let's create our particle system. Now what I'm doing here is simply creating a new particle system, and what I'll do is I'll create each section individually. The way I work is I normally start with a mission and shape, and then once I've got a mission and shape I will then move to speed, and after I've got speed and size done I will then add any textures if I am going to be adding textures. And then from there I will move to colour, and with colour I will quite often add a fading to alpha. So as you'll see a couple of times pop up, a lot of my particles fade out to a 0 alpha at the end of their life. So rather than popping out of view, they fade out quite nicely. A few of them have the same thing at the start, so they'll fade in. Now I'm creating, just adding all of these parts, this one particle system, should I say, to a prefab, so that we will then be able to actuate this via UScript, which is what we're going to do right now. So we'll load up UScript. Come down. Let me see where we're going to do this. Yeah, we'll do this in here. We'll copy and paste this. Set the same position as the exploding rocks. We'll change the prefab name to Cloud PFX, which contains our nice stylized explosion. And if we give this a try, that's a bit big. It's a little on the large size. Let's go into our prefab and back into particle effect editor and see about changing the size. Okay, let's adjust. That's better. In Chapter 6 Part 3 we're going to add some new particle systems to our rocket ship to match the style of our previous particle effects and the rest of our game. So I'm going to start by adding a new particle system. Again, we'll sort out emission and shape first, size and speed, and then colour. And you can see down in the bottom right it's starting to grow into the final image. So you can just see there that I was in Photoshop creating a new asset texture, which will look like little twinkling lights. Filter Gallery is a particle effects artist's best friend when it comes to creating assets. So we've created the prefab as well. So coming back into UScript, we're going to create this new prefab at our death point. So let's just copy the spawn prefab, come over to player rotation, and it's definitely going to be in this section of our graph. I'll just type in spawn prefab at location. Didn't mean to zoom out, let's move back in. Spawn position is going to be the death point. And we'll have that. We'll just move that out of the way so it doesn't quite look as confusing. And the prefab name we're going to be loading is what we've just created, which is Rocket Death PFX. Let's get that. There we go. Now if we save this, and give it a try. Last life, nothing fired. Okay, let's go back into UScript. There's got to be something here. Yeah. It's incorrect spelling. Got an L in there by accident. There we go, now save it. Give it a try. Fantastic. Works exactly how we like it. Okay, so now that we have our explosion done, what we want to do is we want to take a look at our exhaust, because that was really a placeholder. So we're going to keep it, but let's alter it. So just add in some Jetsons style rings coming out of the back of that, and then we're also going to add some sparkles. Again, using the same formula of emission and shape, speed and size, and then colour, and then lots of tweaking. Now you can see me adding a trail render, which isn't technically a particle system, but it does come under the same heading. And there we go, that's the finished product. And I think that looks great. Let's give it a try with the explosions. They look good too. And that trail does look fantastic. Let's take a look at my menu. It's looking a little bit bare. What I'd like to see is I'd like to change those two planets that we've got at the sides there, and also change our main menu planet to look a little nicer. In Chapter 6 Part 4 we'll be improving the look of our main menu planet and our progress bar. Starting again by putting in some texture assets. Drop these in our texture folder. We're in our main menu scene, so we are going to create some materials for these. And cloud layer. Now we just drop these textures on here, and then we're going to make this one so that we have an alpha, and then we want to drop our stylized earth on here. Now we're going to change the material to earth here. If we press play and take a look, okay, it doesn't appear to be rotating in the correct axes, so we probably need to change that. But first what we'll do is we will duplicate this and we'll create our cloud layer. And we'll change the element and the material. We'll scale this out ever so slightly to make it look like it's floating above the planet. It's a little bit snug. I want it a little bit further out. Give the impression that it's got an atmosphere. See, that looks a bit better. It looks like it's kind of floating above it. But I want that rotating on a different speed and a different axis as well. So let's open this up in mono. There we go. And add a new variable in. And we're going to use this, it's a boolean, it's not a float. We're going to use this to determine whether or not the game object we're currently highlighting is the Earth. So that will allow us to very easily set up two different types of rotation. And then we'll just copy this. And we'll paste. And then we'll just change this to the correct axis. So if Earth, rotate on the Y. If you're anything else, rotate on the X. So we'll save it. And then we'll go to Earth, and then we'll actually tick the box to say yes, this one is. Now if we give it a try, we have Earth rotating the right way, and we have our planets rotating, our clouds rotating slightly differently. Gives it a much better impression. Right then, let's just change the speed. It's a bit slower. It's a little bit too slow. Let's try going the opposite direction. Let's try 50-ish. There we go. That gives a bit of a better impression that the clouds are actually there. Good, I like that. Right. Next thing we need to do is load up over in UScript. You will notice that the GUI boxes that we have no longer have an arrival and departure position box. They now have them manually typed in. I'm not quite sure why, but there was a bug where they were duplicating themselves. One in the top left and then another where the position actually was meant to be. So I've manually typed those in, although that turns them into magic numbers. They're at the positions we want them to be currently. So we're just going to transfer over some more texture assets. Now these are the first two GUI images to be loaded into this rather large spidery looking graph. If you take a look, they are Earth and Moon. So the first one is going to be Earth, and the second one is going to be the Moon. And then for level 2 we would do from Moon to Mars and etc, etc. Now if we save this and we take a look, finally done compiling, we will take a look at the level itself, and we should have swapped those plain white circles to the actual planets we want to go to. It's really starting to come together now. Chapter 6 Part 5 will be altering our asteroids to be prefabs, and clusters of prefabs. We will be placing them on our moon path, which we will extend out all the way to the moon. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to come over in our scene view to take our asteroids, which we have very neatly in a straight line, which was very useful for debugging but not useful for a game. So we'll delete the first one, and the second one we're actually just going to unenable it. The third one we're going to turn into a prefab. So we're going to move hierarchy off to the side so we can access both that and the project. We're going to create an empty prefab, and we'll call it asteroid single. And then we will take our asteroid. Now before we add it, let's Let's give it some rotation using the orbit JavaScript. Drop that on there, and then say 40. Play, see if we're going to be able to. Yeah, it's rotating. That's fine. So let's now get back to our empty prefab. Drop this on there, make it turn blue. And then we can delete out the one that's in the level. Re-enable the one we have here. And we're going to use this one to make a cluster of asteroids, which is actually what we're going to be looking to avoid as we go down our path. So if we set this to the origin so we can play around with it, we actually want it slightly off to the side, because the way we're going to make a cluster of this, because we want the cluster to actually be on the ring that the player can turn around. What we're going to do is we're going to create a sphere, and then we're going to adjust this sphere so that it's the outside ring, or the outside circumference, is the same as the player rotation. Like so. There we go. And now wherever we put the asteroid around the circumference, the player would collide with it unless they're quick enough to avoid. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our asteroid here, and using vertex snap, we're going to pop it on here. Let's zero this first so that we're getting it in exactly the right position. That's a bit better. Without it being zeroed, it was slightly off. It would have been correct. So yes, as we were saying, using vertex snap, we are going to move this. Nope, not the pivot point. That's not vertex snap. That's vertex snap. Thank you. Right. So no, I've dropped it again. No, that's just normal snap. Come on. Shift V. Come on. No. There we go. Right. Vertex snapping to our... No, that's not vertex snap. That's just a normal snap. Let's try again. There we go, that's vertex snap. Now we're snapping the pivot point of our asteroid to the surface, or the vertexes of our sphere. So keep it like that. We're going to duplicate it, and then we're going to take this asteroid and... No, there's a better way of doing this. Let's delete this one. Let's take this asteroid and we'll parent it to the sphere, and then we'll duplicate it a couple of times. 5 should do. And then we'll drop this one out, and then we'll rotate the sphere in a random direction to, like, I don't know, there-ish. Yep, we'll drop this one out, and I think you can start to see the pattern that we're doing here. Don't want to put them all the way around, and we want to give the player some corner to actually be able to traverse, so they don't always crash into it. So there we go, they're all out, and we've only got a sphere left, so we can get rid of the sphere. Let's delete that. And then we'll create an empty, and we'll zero this empty, and we'll name it Asteroid Cluster. And if we drop all of our asteroids we've just made in here, we're not going to have to individually move them around. But what we haven't done is put rotation on these. Should have done that first. So here we go. Pop these on one at a time. 3, 4, and 5. There we go. And we'll try and do some variants. Make it look slightly variated. I'll tick that one. Yeah, we'll take that one too. Okay, and then we'll start dropping these into our control empty. And then if we press play, you can see that we can come to this side of the screen to avoid all of our asteroids. And then what we'll do is if we add orbit to the whole thing, to the cluster itself, let's try that. I think that might be a bit fast. Yep, that's rather fast. I mean, maybe for like a last level, but let's up that. Change its axis as well. That's a bit better. Oh, it's unpredictable. That was quite good. I liked that. So what we're going to do now is we'll turn this into a prefab. So create a prefab. And then we will drop this into that, turning it blue. Move hierarchy back. And let's have a play around with this. Let's duplicate and move it along our path. Give it some rotation. Give it a try. It's looking good. It's looking more like the concept for the game as we go. Let's do it again. Make it really difficult on this one particular one. Oh, and we still made it. Didn't like that though. There was some clipping going on. So let's get rid of these. And now let's take a look at our moon path, because at the moment it's a very boring straight line, and it doesn't take very long to get to the end. We're meant to be going to the moon, so let's sort this out. Let's change the node count that we've got. 16? 16 sounds like a good number. And then we need to start adjusting these figures. So I do have written down here from my playtesting a good path. So I'm just going to type these in. And these give very shallow ups and downs, some very shallow banking, and they're all at 25 units along the Z, which gives me some very good indication when I'm going to be placing the clusters of asteroids later. Now we need to move our win box to 250, which is where I'm going to be setting the end. We also need to do that for our scroll bar, for our value. Let's take a look. Where's our path? There's our path. Okay. Let's actually create the moon. And we actually want this at 250Z. But we also want to give it some X on the minus, because we don't want our rocket ship actually crashing straight into it. We want it to go round it, start orbiting it. and it is a moon after all, so let's crank up the scale. And as you can see, our moon path now comes to the side of it. Now if we come down here, you can see I've got quite a lot of the last ones all set to 250, which will allow me now to move these out, and then I can set up an orbit path for after we've won. So the win box is set at 250, and then what will happen is time will slow down after we hit the win box, and we'll start orbiting around the backside of the moon. Just make this a little bit wider so that we can call this destination. And then we'll add that in a bit. Let's give this a try. Whoa, okay, we're going a bit fast. I think the speed. Oh, we did orbit, but we orbited a little bit further out. Let's tighten that up a little bit. I want to be able to see that we're going around the planet, not just turning around a giant corner. Let's give that a try. Actually, that speed's kind of useful for getting to the end. That's much better. Let's remove the collider on that, just in case we clip it for any particular reason. Let's change our speed to 35. I think that should give us a nice speed. It's pretty good. Although that's a bit worrying. Didn't we not set that to 250? Guess we probably didn't save it. Let's give that a try now, after we finish compiling. That's better. Okay. Come out of that. Let's take a look. What's next? Is going to be the material for this. So let's create a material, and then I'm going to hop over to Photoshop and create that material, or create the texture. And there's one I've prepared earlier. Pop this in here, and then we'll drop our texture into our material. I'll change this to the correct material now. Give it a try. There we go, that seems good. Let's add some rotation to this. So that's now slowly rotating in the background. It'll become more apparent the closer we get, but it's rotating on the wrong axis. That's not the way I want it to rotate. Let's tick is Earth and reduce the speed, or should I say speed it up a little bit, because the lower it is, the faster it will turn. There we go, that's closer to what I actually want. Although that's travelling too fast for reality. Actually, let's think, what can we do about that winning script? Because what's going to happen is eventually we're just going to get around to the other side, and it's going to stop. Let's add a game time to the winning condition as well. Set to the same 0.3. Save it. Thinking about it. If we're setting the game time, we're going to have to set it back to normal. So if we go to the main menu, and we'll do the set game time. And this way, no matter if you've been sent back to the main menu because it's game over, or you've decided to come back to the main menu because you've won, and then it will be set to 1. And we shouldn't have any problems. There we go, normal speed, everything's fine. Trail effect is looking good. So it looks like we've got everything in place, and all that's left to add is something to avoid. The asteroids in our titles. There we go, look at that slow-mo. That's looking good. And the main menu is running at the normal speed. Fantastic. Now we were talking about asteroids. That's what we need to add now. Now I've sped up this section of the video as all I was doing was copy and pasting all of the prefab clusters, getting them into the correct position using the Z axis of the moon path, and then adding single prefabs as background asteroids just to give it that kind of distance. Here we have the finished product. Loading from the main menu. And then we have a very full looking level that actually has lovely particle effects going on, and something to actually avoid, and a destination to go to. So there we go, we've got to the end. Thank you for watching this tutorial series. If you have any questions or would like any more advice or tips, or in fact if you do want the particle effects tutorials, please leave a comment below and I will get back to you. Fantastic.